On guys, Black Scout Survival, and today I'm going to show you how to tie another knot, and this knot is the sheet bend. This is a very good knot to know because it's how you can join two ropes together without using a pile of knots, and it's very easy to untie. Also, I just wrote an article in this month's issue of Outdoor by 4 magazine called Know Your Knots, and I got a few different knots in there, including the sheet bend, as well as some other tips on knots and cordage and stuff like that. So make sure you subscribe to that magazine, as I put out a survival column in it every single month. Outdoor by 4 magazine. I'll put a link in the box below where you can subscribe to that magazine. But let's go ahead and go over this knot really quick. So let's go ahead and go over this knot. Now this knot, like I said, is good whenever you're trying to tie two pieces of cordage or rope together. Now there may become a time that you're tying up something, rigging a shelter, and you've realized that your paracord or whatever is too short. This is a way that you can extend it. Another good thing about this knot that you'll notice, I have two different sizes of cordage. I have a larger piece and a smaller piece. This knot works well even with cordage of the same size or if one's larger than the other. So what we need to do is you need to create a bite with, if you're using a larger piece, if you're using the same size, it doesn't matter which piece you create the bite, but you create a bite, which is just a bend in your cordage. Then you're going to take this smaller diameter, if you're using a smaller diameter, and come up through that loop. Then you're going to go around the back of it, wrapping around. So go in, wrap around, and then we're going to go over the top of both of the larger cord. And now we're going to cinch this down, and now we have the sheet bend, and it's an extremely tough knot. Now with all knots, you decrease the breaking or tensile strength of the cordage, and the sheet bend will decrease it by 55%, but that's with all knots. So you always decrease the tensile strength. Now, like I said, the good thing about this is very tough, won't come untied, and a lot of people have a gangle full of knots whenever they're tying two pieces of rope together, and it's very hard to untie, whereas if you just grab both of the loops here and the knot's undone. Now I'm going to show you one more variation of this. It's called the slippery sheet bend, which makes it even more of a easy way to untie it. You just do the same thing, pass underneath, but instead of bringing the working end up through, we're going to make another bite. We're going to place the bite up through there instead and cinch that down. So you still have the same strength as the sheet bend, and if this is under pressure, like if you got your tarp rigged up, all you have to do is pull this here and it releases the knot. So that's just a little extra credit for you, but good knot to know how to use. Like I said before, easy to attach two lines together. So guys, like I said, you can also use cordage of the same diameter, not an issue. The benefit of this knot is that it can be used to tie to a smaller piece to a larger piece, but there you see. But make sure you practice these knots, guys. I see a lot of bushcrafters, survivalists out there, and they're carving spoons or starting fires, but they don't know the simplest of outdoor knots. I'm telling you, this stuff is useful in everyday life. You know, whether you're rigging stuff to your vehicle, setting up a shelter, whatever it may be.
I'd like to talk about a few attachment knots. Say I have a climber up in the tree and I need to send up a lowering line. Well, one bend that I could tie would be a sheet bend. Basically, I'll start with a bite in the climbing line, and I'll take the lowering line, come up through the bite, around the back, take my end and pass it between the line and the bite. I'll tie it, dress it, and set it. Now if you look closely at the sheet bend, it looks similar to a bowline. We have the bite within the loop. Now in this case it is a bend because we're attaching two ropes together. Now the climber will get this up in the tree, and what they need to do is pull on this end, and they're ready to put the line to work. Now one variation on a sheet bend would be a slipped sheet bend or a slippery sheet bend. I can pass and start the knot in the same way. But instead of passing the end through, I'll take a bite and pass it in there. Now when the climber would get this in the tree, what they would need to do is pull on the end, and the line is free. Now, one more variation would be something called a slippery bend. I'd start in the same way with a bite. I would take a turn around it and take a bite, passing it through there, tie dress, and set. Now when the climber would get this up in the tree, all they would need to do is pull on this free end, and it's free, ready to go.